Hello, this is Michael. I'm here today to bring you a weather update about the upcoming winter storm we are expecting, and we do see Columbia, South Carolina being impacted by this in the time frame of Thursday night and also Friday. Precipitation could start as early as Thursday night, or could start a little bit later than that, maybe early Friday morning, but there will that looks like the time frame, and it looks like it will continue into Friday as well. The general concept has been showing up on all the major models for a good while now. For a long time, the general concept has been there. Now the Canadian model and the European model have been really strong with this. They have continuously showed the winter storm for us quite nicely for a long time now, and that's always a good sign when you have those two models kind of lining up like that. Now we'll say, for quite a few days now we've seen that going on. So looking at the general concept of what we're looking at, we're going to have the cold air damming wedge is going to set up for us. And what that is when you have a cold high pressure system up in the northeast. You can see that it's like this is a good schematic of what this looks like, but you have the cold high pressure in the northeast, and it funnels down the cold air, and it kind of builds up against the mountains here, and you'll see that the cold air will just wedge up against the mountains, and it's really cold at the surface. So that's usually a classic setup for us when we do get winter precipitation in South Carolina. And obviously, if you get a low pressure system down here or something, it's going to throw moisture into the cold air, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a low kind of transferring off the coast, off the Carolina coast, throwing in moisture and that sort of thing. So that's the basic setup, and that's been showing up quite a while. If we want to look, let's take a look at the models here. Okay. Now here's the Canadian model here. Let me take a look at this. So this is the latest Canadian model here, and let's go through here. Okay. So I'm going to play this animation for you on what it's showing. And you can see this is like really early Friday. You can see moisture breaking out with the snow and winter precipitation in the northern Georgia, northern Alabama, back here in Mississippi also. And as we go forward in time, you can see that makes its way into South Carolina, and that could be all of South Carolina getting wintry precipitation. That's impressive. And the CMC actually has it starting as snow from maybe about Columbia northward, and then it tries to keep the snow ice line about there during the event. But see, there's the low transferring there, cold air damming down into the CAD region, and then it moves out. Okay, so now let's take a look at GFS, which was being more suppressed in earlier runs, but now is trying to come around to the CMC and Euro, and you can see it's also got wintry precipitation for almost all of South Carolina as it builds in the cold air damming through the high up here, and it builds in the cold air, funnels down with the moisture coming in. And this is like, it's got like freezing rain or maybe sleet coming in. You can see that continues on. Alright, now let's take a look. Here's the GFS. That's the GFS snowfall map for the events. Now this does not filter out these freezing rain and sleet, and like we just saw, according to GFS, the snow probably going to be up here further north with the all snow region. But if you filter that out, you can see this is the ice accumulation that we saw on the last run. 0.34 inch of ice. So that's still a lot. I mean, that's still enough to cause a problem. But now, if you look at the Euro, you'll see that it is pretty similar. Also has about 3/10, 4/10 of an inch freezing rain accumulation down into the Columbia area. Now, on previous runs, it had shown more than that. Really, about 3/4 of an inch of ice I saw on the other run before this one. But now the ice accumulation has gone down on it for now, and it has 3/10, 4/10 on there. And you can see that's kind of maybe about like what GPS would say for Columbia right now. But that's impressive, folks. You got it's showing on GFS and Euro, it's showing the freezing rain accumulation almost all the way down to the bottom of South Carolina. So that's that in itself is quite impressive. So that's pretty impressive there. So it really looks like there's consensus here for the winter storm to impact us. Now, whether or not it's all freezing rain, sleet, or snow, or a combination will depend on the upper layer temperatures. And let's look at a graphic of that right here. You can see this is a schematic for this here. Now, if it's all cold down the whole column, at the surface and up toward higher up in the atmosphere, if it's like really cold in the whole column, you get the snow. But now sometimes you get what we call the warm nose, or intrusion of warm air higher up than the surface. And what happens is what happens is the snow will melt and then refreeze further down. And when you get that situation, depending on the size of the warm nose, you'll get the sleet or the freezing rain. And of course, the freezing rain is when you have the most warm air in the upper layers, and you get the rain coming down, but then it freezes out the surface. So that's basically the basics of that. And right now, this is hard to work out. When we get closer, we may have a better idea of what this is going to look like. I would say sleet or freezing rain is probably more favored right now at this point, but it's saying exactly what this is going to look like is hard to say right now, because like I said, the CMC tried to have it more in the way of snow, and then of course the other models are definitely more in the way of sleet and or freezing rain. So that's to be determined. I mean, it's depending on what the specifics are with the upper layers. It could maybe start as snow and then change over to more in the way of sleet or freezing rain. It could be any of these the whole time. It could be a combination. That's to be determined. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. But either way, this will cause winter weather impacts. But like I said, I'm leaning more toward the sleet and freezing rain right now. But that will be determined. So, the specifics of the precip type and amounts, there's still a lot to work out with those things. But the main takeaway from this is it does look like the vast majority, if not all of South Carolina, will be taking a look. We'll be having this winter storm. And the pattern looks amazing going forward. Here is the GFS mean snowfall that I was looking at through January the 7th. You can see that is pretty impressive for the South, for the areas of the South there. That's looking pretty good. Now, of course, you take that with a big grain of salt, but it does show some upcoming interest. Now, like if we come back and look at the GFS model, you can see it trying to get the other system in here around January the 1st, January the 2nd. It needs more support, but I mean the overall synoptic setup looks pretty good. Overall, and you can see also in the CMC, it tries to do something a little differently. Tries to do it, but it's a little different. But you can see there's the cold high wedge, moisture down here to the south. Tries to break out a similar setup right after this one. So again, it tries to have it tries to have the general concept of the cold air damming event again, right after this one. that's, a little bit further out, but something to keep an eye out for. I mean, the pattern would support that happening again. We'll have to watch the specifics on that one. So again, we're really, we really have a good chance of this winter storm for Thursday night and Friday, with significant impact possible for Columbia, South Carolina. And, really, like I said, almost all of South Carolina possibly. But the specifics of this will need to be worked out on the precipitation type and the totals. But either way, it really does look like a significant impact situation for us. Been a while since we've had a good winter storm like this. So it looks like, we might be making a pretty good comeback with this one. So again, just keep tuned to the latest weather information, and just, be aware of what's going on and be ready to prepare for the winter storm. Alright, thanks for tuning in.